Welcome to today's video covering the Telerik UI components for web, mobile, and desktop. My name is Carl Bergenham and I'm the manager of the sales engineers over here at Telerik, and I'd love to step you through some of the products that we have within this product suite. Now, to take a look at the Telerik product line as a whole, we can look at the Telerik DevTools collection in numbers. Now, the first UI control was released almost 13 years ago, and this is how Telerik got started with the RAD editor for ASP.NET Classic. Since that day, it's grown quite a bit, and we can see that we have over 14 UI bundles with 600 plus controls, 6 productivity tools, and a complete reporting solution, as well as an ORM, an object relational mapper, to help you work with your data and not necessarily spend too much time on building extensive queries on your database. Because of this, we've won over 300 industry and innovation awards. We have a community that's very active of over 1.5 million developers, and we have over 130,000 customers to date. Now, what is Telerik DevCraft? Well, Telerik DevCraft is a bundle of products targeting .NET and HTML5 developers. DevCraft is the main SKU that we sell here at Telerik. It's a part of the DevTools collection, but without the native mobile controls that are targeting the individuals who are looking to do native development, such as iOS and Android. But overall, our vision is to enable .NET developers to quickly and easily build modern applications by providing them with feature-rich and swift and stable controls with great UI. We can see here that we have a couple of value propositions that people can really emphasize when taking a look at Telerik, and tends to show when people explore the online resources that we have, as well as when they start interacting with our support team and the overall Telerik team. Now, to give you some insight into the target persona that we have here, it's mostly professional .NET and HTML5 developers. Now, these guys range anywhere from 5 to 20 years in experience within software development, and they're most likely building internal applications or software for end users or customers. They code and live within Visual Studio, which is Microsoft's IDE of choice, which means that we offer a lot of integration points within Visual Studio. Now, these guys work mostly in small development teams of big organization and mostly non-IT businesses. These development teams prefer to focus on building the business logic of their application, essentially what makes the application tick and what covers the requirements that their end users need, instead of spending all this time on the user interface. So, here at Telerik, since we provide them with a set of reusable UI components that they can use, just drag and drop into their page, set up with a couple of quick configuration options, they are able to now spend most of their time within the business logic as opposed to sticking to the UI as well. This means that they can speed up development and save money in the long run by being able to simply focus all their development time on the business logic. Now, what's included within the DevCraft bundle? Well, we have UI suites for web, mobile, and desktop development, as was just mentioned. And within the web, we have the UI for ASP.NET Ajax, UI for ASP.NET MVC, UI for Silverlight, as well as Telerik Kendo UI. On the desktop side of things, we have UI for WPF and UI for WinForms. And on the mobile UI side of things, we have UI for Windows Universal, UI for Windows Phone, as well as UI for Xamarin. Outside of just the UI components, we do have a full-fledged reporting solution. We also have productivity, debugging, data and code quality tools. And then we do have some non-DevCraft developer products, of course, so UI for iOS, UI for Android, which are native suites for these two platforms, which are not covered within the DevCraft bundle. In this presentation, we will cover the WinForms product only. There will be separate presentations for the reporting tool, for Kendo UI, and for the productivity tools that we offer. If you need presentations on any other products, please contact Sasha Kuzmanovic. Now, in order to understand the Telerik UI for WinForms, let's take a look at what are UI controls exactly. Well, they are widgets which allow you to be able to build out your user interface or the overall user experience that your customers might have within your application. So the idea here is that you have the ability now to use a scheduler widget or a button or a grid or something that is essential within your application that you don't necessarily want to spend a ton of time on developing, but still want to be able to offer to your users. So they allow developers to focus on the business logic rather than building out the UI, so they can spend the most time on focusing on the most important piece of their application, as opposed to spending a little bit of time here and a little bit of time there. This helps increase productivity because now a large portion of the application, essentially what is going to represent the business logic, is now taken care of, which means that they also can decrease their time to market, so they can build these applications and be able to get at new features and new versions fairly quickly. So in order to understand the UI for WinForms, let's first take a look at the platform itself. So WinForms is a very mature platform, although it is a bit of an older technology. That being said, within the .NET space, it's still a very strong choice for desktop applications. Now, some of the major features within Telerik UI for WinForms include that we have 90 line of business controls, including the grid, chart, tree view, rich text box, docking, scheduler, Gantt, and more. We also have something that's very unique with the document processing libraries. Now, these provide APIs for working with the most common document formats, such as DocX, RTF, XLSX, CSV, and PDF. The libraries allow you to embed, load, create, convert, and print documents directly from your applications without needing to have Microsoft Office or any other external library installed on the machine. So this allows you to be able to bring the functionality that most users would go to an external application for example, Microsoft Excel, and you can now integrate this into your application, ensuring that your users stay within your app and you're not looking at various other applications for data input. We also have 19 professional-looking built-in themes to help developers that might not necessarily be so design-minded to be able to bring in UI components that look pretty immediately from the get-go. We've also included multi-touch support to ensure that if these desktop applications are being run on touch-enabled machines, they have the ability to work with the Telerik UI for WinForms components. We also have some very unique WPF-like visuals through the Telerik Presentation Framework. Now, this framework offers WPF-like features within classic Windows Forms applications. It's very flexible and allows you to build WPF-like UIs without true WPF controls. So with WinForms, you don't necessarily traditionally have this nice and beautiful UI that you can take use of. Instead, a lot of the elements tend to be pretty gray, bland, and boring. Within WPF, however, which is another technology for developing desktop applications, there's been a huge focus on rich visualizations and beautiful applications. Telerik wanted to bring that same functionality over into WinForms, which is why we created this framework. Now, the TPF takes care of the granular styling and the transparency, animations, and transition effects of the Telerik WinForms elements, so most of the stuff that you would do within WPF out of the box. Finally, we also have accessibility support built in, and we also can work with coded UI for those folks that are looking into ensuring that their application is as accessible as possible, as well as any automated testing that might be done. Now, how does this integrate with existing Progress software? Well, what you have the opportunity to do is build rich and modern WPF-like applications within classic WinForms. So these can be used to modernize any legacy applications that might exist there, and this is tested to work with OpenEdge GUI for .NET and Progress Developer Studio. It's touch ready and it can work with Windows 7 and above, and POS ready as well. Now, a big thing with these controls is that we have focused a large amount of time on ensuring that the performance is as good as it can be, so you'll be able to really take use of a ton of performance here. Of course, this is on top of everything that we've just covered so far in terms of the advantage that developers find within UI for WinForms. Now let's take a quick look at a WinForms demo. Well, we'll start off by doing an installation, and then after the installation we'll be able to take a look at some of the controls themselves to give you some insight into how they may function. Now, to install the Telerik UI for WinForms product, we can start by ensuring that we've navigated to telerik.com. Once here, we can go to the Your Account page that we'll be able to see in the upper right hand corner. From here, we can log in by either connecting with Facebook, LiveID, Google, or Yahoo, or if you want to, you can log in with your own personal Telerik.com account. Once we have logged in, what we will want to do is probably take a look at the Telerik control panel, which takes a very nice and easy approach to be able to install all the various Telerik products. So just go ahead and click that download button there. Anywhere on that little rectangle will work. So while that downloads, let's check out some other features within the account page. If I go to the products and subscriptions dropdown, I can see a list of all the available products. And let me go ahead and click on DevCraft Ultimate, which happens to contain the Telerik UI for WinForms product. Here I can get some information about the number of licenses I have, and I can also click on this Download, Installer, and Other Resources button. Once here, I can see all the individual products contained within my bundle. So if I happen to have just one product, this will be the only one listed here. And as I scroll down, we'll be able to find UI for WinForms, where I can see not only the latest version number, but I can also download the product again. Or I can check out the release notes, latest internal builds, and older versions. Finally, this Browse All Product Files link that I'm clicking on will allow me to be able to see all the available files that I have to download. For example, we have the automatic installation, which is an offline installer. We also can download the control panel again. We can download a zip file of just some of the DLLs and the themes, as well as NuGet packages and the source code for the actual controls. So once I've double clicked on that installation file that we downloaded, I'll be able to go ahead and install Telerik Control Panel, where I'll also be able to log in with the credentials that are provided. Now this will list out a full list of all the products that I have available within my account. Now we can see here that on the left hand side, some of these have already been installed, and I also have the availability to be able to update some that might need updating. On the right hand side, I have the ability to go through and select which particular products that I want to install, and in this particular case I do want to go ahead and install UI for WinForms, so I'll go ahead and check that off. Now on this next page here, I'll be able to select where I want to install this to. I can also go ahead and select if I want to install the local demos and which version of Visual Studio I want to include support for. I can also see the overall download size and the installation size in terms of megabytes to ensure that if I've selected multiple products, I know how much I'm going to go ahead and download. Now on this next screen, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and actually start the download process, and we'll also see the overall current application and installation progress. So what this now allows me to do is download several products all at once by checking off those checkboxes, and then on this particular page, we'll go ahead and just let everything download and install automatically by itself. When everything is done, we'll be able to go ahead and get a confirmation from the Telerik control panel. So this is something that you can go ahead and start in the background and then be able to go ahead and simply open up the demos once the installation has finished. Alright, now let's go ahead and take a look at some demos. So what we have here is the demo application that's open up. You'll be able to find this as an icon on your desktop once you have installed the Telerik UI for WinForms. Here we can see that we have an application that serves a couple different demos, not only here on the main screen, but also on the left-hand side where we can see a list of all the controls. To start off, we're going to take a look at the bookshelf demo here. So let me go ahead and click that. And once this loads, this will show us how we can create an application for WinForms that looks like a bookshelf. This contains a lot of items that really boils down into several different categories, and we can take a look at some additional information about every book, including a title and a description. Now this is built with touch in mind, so even though I am using the mouse to navigate around here, we will be able to think about how this could be used with a finger swiping left and right. Once we find an item, we can simply click or tap on it, and we'll see that we can open it up here again, and theoretically we can navigate back to the home screen, be able to filter down into a particular category and then select books from here as well. Additionally, we have this application called the Demo Apps Hub. Now, this has a couple of other demos that we can take a look at, starting with the photo album. And this demo is really here to be able to show how you can create a photo album viewer with some unique visuals. We can navigate through different images so we can see the animations and transitions that are occurring as images are being scrolled through here. Additionally, we have the magnifying demo, which allows us to see this grid of buttons. Actually, they're completely rounded, and we can see how we can interact with them, and just in general how these other buttons tend to grow larger or smaller depending on where the mouse cursor is located. Now going back to our original demo application, on the left hand side we have a list of all controls that allows us to be able to go through and click on each individual control and be able to see some additional demos. As we scroll through here, which I'm doing with my mouse scroller, we can see that there are quite a lot of different controls that we have available. But we're not going to go through all of them. Let's start off with one of our most popular ones, the chart view control. So we can see on the first look demo that we can take a look at some charts. We see that we have a bar chart, a stacked one in this case, also a pie chart. And we also, within each demo, have the C# and VB.NET equivalent code for this exact demo. So you can scroll through these various files and be able to see just how this demo was created before you even go ahead and open up anything within Visual Studio. We can also take a look at features such as smart labeling, which we can see allows us to be able to have a easier time of seeing the labels that we have displayed within the pie chart, not necessarily have everything bundled. We also have features like multi-axis support, and we can even provide easy ways to drill down. And we can see here how as we click around on the various different items within a series, and not only do we go from a bar chart to a bar chart, but also to this line chart that we have here. Additionally, within the visualizations, we have the gauges control, which as we can see here offers a radial gauge that allows us to be able to very easily set up various modes of gauges in terms of displaying value in various intuitive ways to our users. If we scroll around using those little scrollers here, we can see that we also have another popular control, the scheduler control, which we can navigate to and take a look at here in the first look demo. Now, this happens to have the calendar integration, and we can see here that due to the resolution on my screen, the actual scheduler itself is a little bit tiny, but we can already see some views as to how we might be able to work with the scheduler. Let's take a look at the timeline demo that I have here in order to be able to really see what we can operate with. So we can double click on any appointment. We can see that it opens up. We can work with regular appointment windows. We can also set up recurrence if we want to. Essentially what you might be used to within Outlook or any other scheduling application, this UI control already has readily available. We also have the ability to work with the various categories that we might have, background mode, etc. We also have the ability to just scroll left and right and be able to get to the next available slot or the previous slot by clicking on this little icon right here. Now moving from the scheduler, another control that can very easily integrate with that would be the desktop alert. We can see that this control pops up in any one of the corners. This happens to be in the lower right hand corner, and we have the ability to pin the message so to ensure that it stays there. We also have the ability to unpin the message, and this will just allow the message to disappear after a set amount of time, and then we can even close the message if you just want to dismiss it. Now, one of the most popular controls that we have available is the grid view control. Now this is essentially a control that is used in almost any application. And the initial first look demo here gives us a look into how we can have a grid that offers the ability to display information about a particular product. We can see here that we have an image within our row, as well as various forms of type. So strings, we can insert numbers, we can have a checkbox, etc. It also gives us the ability to sort by clicking on the header here, and we can sort in an ascending fashion, we can sort in a descending fashion, and then we can click a third time to remove the sort order. We can also very easily work with inserting items and editing items if need be, not only within the grid itself, but we could also work with an external editing field like we have here. Now another demo that gives us the ability to check out some of the performance that we have within the grid view happens to be this demo that loads 50,000 rows. Now if I click this button, load all the rows, we can see here that I can very easily, even though I have a ton of data in this particular grid, I can go ahead and grab any one of the columns that we have available, drag that up to this little area, and now we're grouping by that particular column. In this case, it's a Boolean column, so we have true or false. And this means that we only have two groups that we can deal with. But from there, we can also see that we can start diving into and filtering. And we see that this filtering happens almost instantaneously. And as I'm typing through and as I finish typing and hit enter, or if we want to, of course, we can just make sure that this executes whenever we finish typing, we'll be able to see that all the items are now filtered. So as I'm going through and I'm increasing the number that I have to ensure that all the items are greater than this particular number, we'll see how the filter changes instantly and how the grid adapts accordingly. Some other additional controls that we have for line of business applications include the pivot grid, which, as you can see here, looks like just like any other pivot grid that you might have used previously. This happens to be pre-filtered. This happens to, of course, have a lot of predefined columns, but we can see as we scroll through, we have frozen headers, we have frozen columns in order to ensure that people know exactly where they are within the application. An additional popular control that we have is a tree view component, and as we can see here, it gives us the ability to structure our data within a hierarchy where we can expand and collapse nodes like any normal tree structure. We've also added some additional UI on top of this that allows us to be able to filter down items. We can also sort items in an ascending or descending fashion, and ultimately, if we wanted to, there's additional functionality in terms of drag and drop and other sort of features that we might want to include within our tree view structure. Now this just happens to be a couple of the demos that we have available with some of our most popular controls. We don't have time today to step through each and every single one of these controls and each of its features. However, if you follow the guidelines that we had in terms of downloading the control panel, getting the UI for WinForms product installed, you can very easily just double click on the demo icon on your desktop and start exploring your demos today. This has been an overview of Telerik UI for WinForms, and I hope that you enjoy downloading and playing around with the product.